Right, hello everybody. As you can see, I have moved to a temporary dorm, so that is why it took me a while to get here. But no worries, I'm back already. Anyways, we're going to do speaking part three today. So, so part three is quite similar to writing task two actually, with the reasoning being that you would answer questions based on a specific topic that they would give you, mostly in a debate style, which is what part two task two of IELTS writing would cover. So, so as you can see, yeah, there are those are the questions will be similar like that, and there will be some difficult things to say, and you only have four different forms this time: opinion, comparison, or contrasting, or discussion. Those are basically a similar one. Problem solutions and prediction future. So as you can see, even in IELTS speaking part three, the questions you would answer are pretty similar. If you've done IELTS task two writing, you have probably seen problem solution and compare and contrast as two forms of different writing in IELTS writing. So yeah, it is pretty similar to task two, but yeah, let's see. So, um, so the thing is part three is considered from some people, some most people to be the hardest. I for sure do not. I think part two is actually the hardest. However, part three is considered to be the hardest with most people, as these questions revolve around global things that you don't really have much time to answer to. The main part that you guys will have a problem with is the speed you guys need to answer, because you guys need to answer in around a few seconds after they ask the question, and while you answer, you have to think of what you want to say next. So that's basically the bulk of the difficulty for part three. So once you master the technique of learning what to say while you are speaking, remember like thinking what to say while you're speaking, part three should be a piece of cake, because it yeah, but mostly you want to master load, which means you should try to like learn and bulk a lot of information for many different global issues or things that they could probably say. And yeah, basically, and you should practice the skill I just said before. So yeah, yeah, as you can see, the ideas is one of the hardest parts. As you can see, let's have some questions about the environment. Then you need to think about, well, what causes environmental problems. Yeah, you need to think of the ideas properly. And to think of ideas properly, you need to think of, most of the time, part three questions would be about global differences. So what you do is you would think about, you think again, like all the other part ones and part twos, think how and why. Yes, it might be difficult. I do understand the struggle, especially because you don't have much time. But answering how and why is the best bet you would have in part three. Now, no, yeah, it's now, the second one is as I already said. Part three is you need to show your ideas. So yeah, the hardest part of this is one of the hardest parts of part three that I see to other people, because again, I don't find part three hard, but people do find part three hard. So the thing is, you need to basically you need to, once you have the idea, which is hard enough, you need to explain to them the idea. Now, part three spams you with a bunch of questions. They will The point of part three, what I believe that what you're going to try is to overload you with as much questions as possible until you will crack, and you will start to answer a bit wrong. So that's the point of part three. You will basically be bombarded with questions, and in a very short manner. So think of part one, but you need to answer even more important questions or to have more thinking towards it. And yeah, even if you have thought your main idea, there is some difficulty of telling people the idea. Like not all the time you can explain your idea. So yeah, that's a difficulty. However, as with many things in life, you could pretty much try to solve this problem. So, so the basic simple way you would usually do something is you would use the if I'm you would use if I'm pretty sure what the schools call it, the Pew method. I'm I'm not sure though. Anyways, so first of all, you need to give your point, you need to give your idea out, and then you need to explain why. So for example, if I said, um, let's say exercising is good for you, right? I need to say why. Why is exercise good for me or good for them? Exercise is good, and I need to explain, oh, exercise is good because it helps strengthen your muscles, something like that, or makes you less prone to disease because your immune system works harder. So something like on the lines of that. Then after that, you should try to give an example. Um, actually, the example doesn't have to be a study because unfortunately, no, since you don't have the internet, so for IELTS speaking, so instead you will try to give an example of yourself. So for example, you would say after I took a month of exercise, I felt that my muscles are way more stronger than before, something like that. Oh yeah, remember linking words. Should you need to use them, you should use words such as simply because, mainly because, since and as, for to explain an idea. This is actually what you use in writing as well. I was writing task two. You would say this. You would give out your point, your topic sentence, and then you would say this is because blah blah blah, and then you would say, for example, or for instance, which is our example. Now, what will be different between IELTS speaking and writing task two is you will not end just there. You will need to explain what the world is, what the status quo is, or what the current situation is, would be if that didn't happen. So, for example, if there were no exercise, what will be different? Sure, you might feel better, but in the long run, you wouldn't be healthier. So something like that, you need to explain. You need to explain the examiner that this is important, and without it, things could happen. Now, uh, now, um, Now, you also need to give a slight like other idea. So basically what I'm saying is that for some questions where it is controversial, meaning that there are two very huge sides of an opposition and a proposition, um you should also give them a slight peek on the opposing side. So maybe if the question is about related to exercise, I could talk about how some people say that exercise is bad for you. So yeah, it is pretty, yeah, you don't really know. You don't really know. If you don't really know, you need to try to think of. But yeah. Oh, sorry, very bad. But yeah, you need to give them a perspective into the opposing side. Now, we have the conclusion. Now, um, a conclusion. Um, Conclusion, you just need to paraphrase. So that's what will be similar. 4 and 5 are actually will be different from IELTS writing task 2, but however, I believe that this is actually a really decent way of writing a task 2 paragraph, except for 4 and 5. However, my writing style, I do incorporate a bit of 5, but it's best for you guys not to be involved with that right now. But yeah, this is, as we said, part 3 and part 5, and task 2 are pretty similar. So yeah. Now the final one. Um, because IELTS part speaking part three is directly related to what you did in part two. So for example, if I'm not wrong, it is directly related to part two. There will be specialized words and more advanced wording that you need to use. So like environment-oriented words. There are a lot of keywords that are related at C1 or C2 level that are about a specific topic. Mostly environment, mostly yeah, governmental authorities type stuff. So yeah, most of those will have a lot of expert wordings, and you need to learn some of them. You need to learn some of them. Sometimes they would actually use sight wording into your questions. So, for example, global warming. Some of you, I believe, I at least, I hope not so, might not know what global warming is. And yeah, they will also be looking for you to use some of these complex words while being also pretty understandable. So yeah. Again, the point of the IELTS speaking test is to test the ability on how you can form ideas and give them in a coherent way, while also making it understandable, which is basically coherence, to a native speaker. So don't blast like Shakespeare type words, and don't blast really complicated words for them to not understand. I believe words at the C1 slash slightly above C1 level, which is like slightly into the barrier of C2, is good. Anything above that, where it is too advanced for even a native speaker to understand, I would not suggest for you to use it. Now, yeah. The other difficult thing some might use, some find in some would see in IELTS speaking part 3 is grammar. Specifically the future. Since future tense isn't actually used much in writing or in any other forms of English, actually, future tense is rarely used unless you are having a discussion on future, which again rarely happens. You only talk about the past and now. I've never seen many future discussions, but they still exist, and that is a huge difficulty for some people as well. So yeah, um, yeah, you need to well use a lot of complex wording. You need to try to understand subject related wording. So like advanced wording for some major subjects that would happen. A huge one I would really emphasize for you guys to study is the environment, because the environment is a huge topic in IELTS itself. You will see the environment in your listening, your reading, your writing, and even your speaking. You will see the environment as a topic in all four of these. I will guarantee you, well, not actually guaranteed, but I will guarantee you that if you see past exams, you will be bound to see at least one IELTS test where all four subjects will have a topic related to the environment. So the environment is a really important one you need to practice. Please, first one of the day, practice environment, and then you can start practicing other things like money and such. But yeah, I'm sorry, but I am heavily emphasizing environment here because it's the most important thing. So yeah, all right. Now let's go to the four forms of speaking part 3. Now, first of all, is the opinion type. Now, what is this opinion type? Well, this is actually the most common question that you will see in IELTS because it is pretty much related to your life. And you need to try to connect it to your own life experiences, and that's what all they do. That's what they want you to see, and that's what they want you guys to see, and that's what they want to see. Yeah, sorry. So, so now, the first method is the first type of opinion they would give you is basically, would you agree with something or disagree? Again, most of these will probably be controversial. So, for example, maybe do you think it is required to tip? Because there are actually some insane people out there that, sorry, because there are actually insane people out there that think that tipping is required. So yeah, most of these questions will have two sides, even if one side is way stronger than the other. Um, if I were you, just follow your own heart, because there isn't any right or wrong answer in IELTS speaking. So as long as you have good ideas, choose the side that you have good ideas for. Most of the time, it will be the side with more evidence backs up. However, if you have expertise or something in the side, in the worst side, you could actually answer in the worst side. I'm pretty sure I actually did that once. I don't remember the question, but yeah. Anyways, so yeah, so here are some examples. Do you think it's necessary for companies to offer good customer service? Again, this might be simple. You all might say yes. However, however, some people would probably say no. I don't know why, but even though they're customers, they would say no. Or yeah. Second of all, do you think that it's important for people to go on holiday? Again, some people might say no. They might say working is the only thing in life. And again, so as you can see, most of these questions have one hugely biased side, and the other side being like absolutely demolished in terms of like favorability. Because yeah. So I would suggest you guys to choose your own heart. But if you really had to ask me and you didn't have a heart, I would say you would choose the one that has more backing up. So the option that is more obvious to choose. So for example, should children watch violent films? Even though I would say yes, that's a probably unpopular decision. I would recommend people to say no because it's an easier side to answer. However, if you want to challenge yourself, you can answer yes to this. So yeah. So yeah. For um so for opinion questions, do not use words that are certain. Do not use any certainty related words. So for example, always, I'm sure that, obviously, exactly, clearly, like those words that give you a sense of certainty, do not say them because it's your opinion. Because it's your opinion, there is no right or wrong answer to this. Therefore, if you say that, the examiner will think that that you are trying to basically only give people one choice, which will probably give you minus points if anything. So yeah, remember when answering to never use this, and instead you should answer some of these. So for I would say, I believe, I suppose that, or in my opinion, those are better answers to say than I'm sure that, or yeah. So, for example, if one could say that I'm pretty sure that most people prefer eating out than rather than at home, that would sound like I'm most people because I would be assuming that most people actually prefer eating out rather than at home. And some cases, that's not true. A lot of people would probably eat at home too. So I would have to say, I think that, because that gives you a sense of uncertainty. Uncertainty is good in IELTS Speaking Part 3 because if you're wrong, you won't get demolished. If you're right, you don't get any points if you're right. If you're wrong, you'll probably get demolished, or yeah. So, how would you answer this? First of all, you need to say, do you agree with it or not? You need to establish your opinion. So, probably say, yes, in my opinion, it is whatever, or to do whatever, or no, actually. I don't think it is. Yeah. And then you would give your explanations, your supporting ideas to the main idea. So after that, you would say, um, like blah blah blah. I would say something. I would support the idea with something I could think of, and then I would give an example. Yeah, I would give a simple example. An example is something something something, and then you need to give them what the opposite viewpoint is. So basically, if you're talking after, yeah, this is basically the sentence structure basically said above. But yeah. So, would anyone like to practice these questions? Would anyone like to answer these questions? Again, some of these questions might be controversial. If so, um, yeah, please do not judge each other because some of these questions are probably going to be a bit controversial. I have question 5. So yeah, does anyone want to answer these questions? Think of this as just a simple discussion, but you have to give your opinion on it. Anyone? Would anyone like to give a sample speech, or should I do it?
Um, well, can I do um can I do the fifth question?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Okay, so I guess that um certainly women should be able to do all the same jobs that men do, because firstly, like people aren't like people aren't that misogynistic anymore, and there are women's rights right now. That's why women have has every right to do things that men can do. And I guess jobs, being able to do all the same jobs that their male counterparts can do is just a basic right, and a fundamental human right to freedom. And also it also supports equity and um I don't know, diverse workplaces. I'm not sure. Probably that.
Yeah, that is a pretty decent free speech. Some small things you should probably also say a bit of why some people disagree, like why the misogyny still exists in the modern world, because it still does. I'm perfectly aware of that. So yeah, but yeah, pretty good set of arguments. I would probably agree with that too. Um, However, there's actually now that I think about it, there's actually some slight arguments that one could make, such as physical limitations. That I'm not trying to talk about like blue collar jobs, but like just physical limitations of the female body. Things like that could be a slight argument that you could add to say no. But yeah, overall, yeah, pretty good speech. Thank you. Um, yeah. So, um. let's continue. So, um, in this, now we have another, actually less controversial, still as controversial. Never mind, because opinions are always controversial. You'll be asked with two situations. Now, what you would do is they would ask if you would do X or Y. Now, again, this is your thinking. So, for example, let's say, do people watch TV for education or for entertainment? And well, some would say you do it for entertainment. Some would say you do it for education. So yeah, this is like you pick one or two. Wait, give me a second. I need some water real quick. All right. So yeah, you just need to answer quickly how much if whether we watch TV for education or for entertainment. For that's some few questions that you could answer. All right. So, um usually in when they give you two options, the best way to answer is you need to say it depends. Because for all things in life, there is always a room for depends. Depends is something you will see a lot. Because it is true. It depends. A lot of things need dependency. There is going to be some. Every person is not built the same, so there's going to be some difference. So be sure to say that. Now, what do you need to say after that? Why does it depend? I mean, if you say depends and you say I don't know why, they won't give you points for. They won't give you any marks for that because well, you didn't answer why it depends. So yeah, if it depends on something, tell them why it depends. Is it because tell them why it's actually not on. Tell them why it's actually not exactly. How do I say this? Tell them that it's not exactly black and white. It's not that everybody will think of exactly one thing. So what now? We'll give out the first situation. You need to answer, oh, if if something happens, then something else will happen. And you need to give, or when something happens, something happens. I know, pretty motivational. Let me break it down. The difference between these two is the fact that one is based on if, and the other is based on when. So one is a conditional, other is a matter of time. So yeah, um, you need to give out the first solution, and then you need to give out the second. Now, the second like situation is basically only applies when only applies when you're saying on the other hand, when you say basically you need to explain to them if the first solution doesn't work, so your second solution, and then conclusion. It's really simple. Just say it. Just say depends, and then tell them why it depends, and then you should be good. Yeah, that's basically what you would answer for this section of opinion. Now, the third opinion question. Yes, I know there's a fair bit of different opinion questions. They really want to know about your opinion. Um, the third pair of your opinion is, well, you need to give them reasons for a problem. So, for example, as you can see here, you actually it's about any problem that you can think of. But most of the time, you would say, "Oh, what are some ways for whatever?" What? Usually, these questions are what because you would want to list a couple of things. Um, let's go back to the environment topic. In the environment topic, you could say what are the causes of air pollution or what are the causes of today's terrible environment. That would actually be I believe that's actually an actual question asked in the out speaking. Don't actually like don't think it's guaranteed though. If it's actually guaranteed, then I'm a psychic. But yeah, now you just need to. It's really simple. It's a what question. So, well, if you guys know how to list ideas using IELTS writing task 2, this shouldn't be a problem. Say that there are many ways that one could blah blah blah, and then you need to list the ideas out. You need to give the reason, you need to give an example, and you need to give the counter example, like a counter argument. So yeah, really simple, nothing much. I think this should be pretty easy for even for you guys because it is not that hard. Now, now, um, if um, hmm, now, yeah, you only need to give like two reasons. That's really it, and then you give a conclusion. So not that much. Yeah, we have some questions I will send you after we finish this course. Anyways, type 2. Comparison, contrast, discussion. So, the type of questions that you would see in type 2 is basically you will have to compare X and Y, or X in the future, past, and X today. So basically, yeah, those type of questions. So, usually usually you would see these questions as such. What are the differences between X and Y? How is X different than Y? So, um, simply tell them the differences. Okay? You just need to tell. You just need to explain to them the differences. Now, um, all right. So, this one you could also there's also this form as well. But basically, you would also need to. There's also another form. How has X changed in the past and now? You're comparing to the past and comparing today. That's the next one. That's the next form. Right? And then we have give an opinion. Do you agree or disagree? I believe this is actually better as an opinion type question above. So yeah, that's why they removed it. Anyways, so how do we answer? Let's get to part let's get to the first one, first part. What are the differences between X and Y? Now, now, in this case, we need to give out, of course, a topic sentence, and then you need to give out the differences, the first set of differences, and then you give out the second set of differences. So first of all, most of the time, yeah, you need to tell them the differences. That's basically it. Um, you need to give out some key differences that one can easily notice, and so yeah, that is something you also want to take note of. Anyways, um, you will also need to compare, while comparing two things, you need to compare it with or to whatever it is. It will be far more whatever. So yeah, it really depends. But you need to compare against two different things. So yeah, as you can see, let's say the difference between men's and women's shopping habits. You can say that what men tend to spend less, shop less than women. This is not trying to be sexist. This is just the truth, scientifically speaking. Or you can say that well, they have a lot of different malls, shopping boutiques, etc. So basically, compare both of the sides. Think about both sides, and then try to compare about both sides. Yeah. So that's basically how you would answer these set of questions. You would just the simple way of it is you just need to try to explain the core or key differences between these two things. You need to explain how these two things could be different than the other, and that's basically it for this part. You shouldn't be struggling here as well, as long as you have a key idea of what is going on. Answering this should be a piece of cake. Now, now let's answer the second part. How was X changed? So now this is a slightly different way, a different question that you need to answer, but no, worry not. There is still a way to answer it. So Um, most of the time, there will be changes. I don't care what happens. Say that there is a change. Like everything will change. Okay? Maybe not for like toilet paper or something, but they won't ask you on toilet paper. Most of the things they will ask you will require change. Most of the things that they will ask you is guaranteed to have a change. So yeah, it is without a doubt something that you will have to guarantee when talking about change. There will be a change. So you need to say, well, X used to be blah 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 X, but now X is different. So basically, you need to compare between the past and the future. Oh no, past and right now. Really simple thing. No, it's I don't think you guys again. I don't think you guys should be struggling. But yeah, that is basically it. Um, you just need to compare the past and the recent. So yeah, it is not that hard. And then you need to give a slight conclusion if you really need that, but not really important. Yeah. So that is really it for today. I know it's a bit of a short class, but speaking part three is pretty hard to make stuff of. Tomorrow next class, we will be developing more on speaking part three, and we will start answering some questions for all forms if we have time for it. So yeah, see you guys. Hope I see you guys next lesson.